When the clock strikes midnight on December 31st, so many of us set goals for ourselves for the new year. Oddly, 95% of the people, including myself, have failed to start a new habit, get rid of a bad one, be more involved in the community, lose weight, drink less, climb that mountain, train for that first triathlon, start that business, or simply be happier. The vast majority of resolutions fail. I've been there. I set out new goals and told myself year after year that this year will be the new beginning. Less drinking and stick to whatever bad routine I would need to break. It's tough, or is it not? And we just need skills in order to stick to it? New beginnings are a prime time to reevaluate, reassess, reflect, and making fresh resolutions. So, even with best intentions and deep desires to implement a change, why will the majority of people fail this year? My hope is that after watching this video, you'll pick up where you left off and get back to what you originally wanted to change. If I had to contribute my personal change with setting goals, changing habits, and digging myself out of a hole of procrastination and laziness, it is two things: clarity and raising my level of consciousness. Obviously, this is not some voodoo magic trick or an electric shock that made me think differently one day when I woke up. It is simply, in my opinion, the ability to create or change based on a specific vision in the future. More importantly though, what I've realized is that framing goals within a time constraints can be counterproductive. This is huge. Think about it. How much pressure are you going to place on yourself to tell yourself, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months, and the clock is ticking. You're 2 months in and you've lost 8 pounds. Oh my God, we're running out of time. In my opinion, a better way is to have a clear vision for yourself, such as, I want to lose 30 pounds, and you tell yourself, I will achieve it, no matter what. You don't know when exactly that's going to happen, so you remove the time constraint, but you will stick to a healthier diet and hit the gym at least 5 times a week. I'm gonna talk about the magic of the quantum field later in the video and what happens if you surrender to outcomes in your life. I would even go as far as don't even weigh yourself for the first month, just leave it. Just do the work, and that we're going to talk about today, and leave it up to the universe. Clarity of the mind means that all plots come from a person's character trying to get something, to achieve something, wanting, desiring, and longing. I'm sure that many of you are overwhelmed by the wealth of information out there that's omnipresent on a daily basis, and these false hopes and claims that people are making. Especially in a world with all these distractions and technological advancements, having the right focus and intention is more important than ever before. I'd like to illustrate the connection between clarity and consciousness of the mind with my personal story. When I was probably around 12 years old, I was diagnosed with ADHD, which probably is very common. And I vividly remember, which is shocking to me looking back, that I was in a room with a psychologist and my parents while he actually was a girl, while she announced that I have an attention deficit. Why would I be even in the room, right? So I basically started to believe very strongly going forward from that day on that I can't concentrate or focus. I made it my inner belief that I will not concentrate. Besides, I couldn't even hold my attention on one thing for a set period of time. So there was definitely truth to it, but that statement coming from a highly ranked person in society, at least that was my impression, that's what I thought, it made it even worse. So an example for that would be Michael Jordan tells you that you really suck at basketball. So there's just a heavier conviction when it comes from a super professional, a highly ranked person, right? So what ended up happening was every time I would fail a test, it pretty much confirmed what my inner belief already had in myself. I was stuck with that thought and those feelings for a long time. So basically 20 years. I realized over the years, I'm not bragging or I want to, show how good I am, but I've completed 2 degrees. I wrote a master thesis. I completed a 6,000 piece puzzle. I read over 100 books, thousands of hours of podcasts on YouTube, and I probably meditated 1,000,000 hours ever since 2019. How on earth is that possible? Coming from ADHD to that. Let's break it down. Simply said, change is hard, which doesn't come as a surprise since 95% of people fail sticking to their New Year's resolution 17 days into 2024. Dieting or hitting gyms are amazing goals, but by just shouting them out into the universe without doing anything to enhance your capacity to either sustain motivation or handle the inevitable stress and discomfort involved in change won't bring that change. That's fact. The solution to this problem is have a very precise and clear vision for your future. Define it, sit on it, write it down, and please don't overthink it right now. Make it crystal clear. So let's take this exam for a minute. I want to lose weight. Wow. What a vague statement, right? It's like saying I want to go on vacation and you don't know where, how, and when. Let's break it down further. I'd like to have a catalog of questions, so this could look like a bunch of questions that you come up with and you write it down. And the overall goal is lose weight. Question number 1 that I would ask myself, what's my current BMI? The body mass index. Number 2, what's actually a good BMI? What do I eat on a daily basis? How many calories in total? Yes, track it. Write it down in your journal. Why have I not executed yet? What are my inner beliefs around losing weight? Perhaps, and that's probably true for a lot of people, you don't even believe you can. Also, practical advice, find out where's your nearest gym, how much this is a month, and find the trainings plan online. Go research trainers, workout plans, and strategies. Everything is on YouTube. So further, what I would do is take the 3 top YouTubers on weight loss and write everything down and combine and cross-reference with the internet. If you have a full-time job or you're a full-time mom, write down your exact schedule on a weekly basis. When can you work out? When do you have at least 2 hours time? And what happens is those quality questions lead to living a quality life. Let me tell you something really amazing that I came across, and let this concept really sink in. Actually, it's not a concept, it's the truth, it's reality. Our mind has a very powerful filtering system that create blind spots, kind of like when you drive and someone is coming and you don't see it. That's what we call blind spots. Have you noticed how you start researching about Teslas, for instance, and all of a sudden you start seeing Teslas everywhere? You leave your house, on the freeway, on the way to the gym, whatsoever. That's because our senses take about 11 million pieces of data each moment, but we can only consciously process up to 40 pieces per second. So that part of our brain is working as a filter mechanism to manage sense perception, and it's called RAS, which stands for Reticular Activation System. In other words, and back to our weight loss example from earlier, since you will start researching and consume your time with around that topic on a daily basis, you're going to notice a lot more around that topic. RAS determines what information will get through to you. So it's kind of like a filtering mechanism, value versus D-value. So it's very powerful, and try it out. You know you're gonna find that mind-blowing. Actually, let me rephrase. You can't try it out. It's gonna come automatically. It's almost like a reflex in your brain. And if you're more conscious around that, you're gonna start noticing how everything around is weight loss and diet and getting fit, and you're gonna have an amazing experience. And please share if something like that has already happened, or if you got questions around that topic. And please hit the subscribe button below for more videos. Thank you. To sum it up with an amazing essay by Strangest Loop, here we go. Preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a to-do list for the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling people you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Messaging friends who may or may not be doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Writing a banger tweet about how you're gonna do the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about all of the adoration you receive once you do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about other people who did the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading this essay isn't doing the thing. The only thing that is doing the thing is doing the thing. Isn't that unbelievable? It all comes down to one word: activity. Go into doing the thing. I hope this didn't annoy you, but I find it so breathtaking and profound that I had to share it. Let's talk about number 2. So once you have written all that down, try to reverse engineer. We've got the vision. Now try to break it down into mini goals. Go day by day, week by week, and just know your overall long-term vision and have it in the back of your mind that you want to lose weight. It's very important to create a system around these mini goals and hold yourself accountable. You will notice that the process is going to repeat itself. And that's when you have your routine and your habits start changing. What I mean by the process is going to repeat, meaning if you sign up for that gym, you have a strategy in place, you talk to your husband or wife, and you go 3 times a week, that process is going to run clockwork, day in and day out. An example of how powerful a why and a vision can be, you need to think greater than your environment. And it is, I can tell you from my own experience, it is absolutely possible to think greater than your present reality. Let's look at people that have really changed mankind. History books are filled with names of people who had the gift of thinking big with a vision that seems so unreal that at the time people thought they're simply ludicrous. Some of these people are Marie Curie, who discovered radium and polonium, Thomas Edison, obviously, who invented electricity, or Leonardo da Vinci, who invented countless items, had hundreds of patents, and, for example, invented the parachute. He was also one of the guys that sketched the first actual helicopter. That's what history has told us. So now, this is very, very important. Every one of these individuals had a concept in his or her mind of a future reality that only existed as a potential in the quantum field. They all believed so strongly in the future destiny that was so real in their minds that they began to live as if that dream was already happening. When one holds a dream independent of the environment, that's greatness. I want to pause here for a sec. Again, this is manifestation. You cannot manifest and things will not happen to you when you don't feel what it's like to be that person. So I'm going to talk in a minute about identity shift, but let that again sink in, and I'm reiterating it because it's so profound and it has changed everything in my life. You need to sit down, think about your vision, and feel that vision. In our weight loss example, what does it feel like to lose weight? What does it feel like to go to the gym, to put 30 pounds on the bench press and go from there? How can you envision that, right? Sit in silence. When you drive, for example, turn off that radio. When you go home, find an extra room or sit in a corner, play some meditation, or just sit, see what comes up, write it down, and also feel yourself into the future. Life comes in waves and we can hardly predict it. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. As individuals, we all have our hopes, dreams, expectations, and our overall mission in life, whatever it may be. We become inherently obsessed achieving them, and we always want to be in the knowing. That's our ego. Knowing exactly where we're going to be in X years, how much money, what location, and knowing precisely everything the way it's going to be unfolded. But as we know, life is far from being linear, right? It's more like this. Life goes like this. So with this picture in mind, let's talk about how you need to reinvent yourself and why you need to change your identity to achieve your goals. So from my own experience, there are 2 paths to reinvent yourself. You can either hit rock bottom, you have to change, and the second one is change before you hit tragedy. If we take a step back, imagine your brain is like a supercomputer with both software and hardware. The hardware is the actual physical functioning of the brain and is not separate from the software. So it's your constant programming and reshaping occurs throughout your lives. They have dramatic impact on each other. They can't live without each other. It's impossible. It seems that human nature is such that we balk at changing until things get really bad and we're so uncomfortable that we can no longer go on with business as usual. We wait for crisis, trauma, loss, disease, and tragedy before we get down to looking at who we really are, what we're really doing, and how we're living, and what we're really thinking and feeling, and what we believe or know, in order to embrace true change. An example would be smoking. I mean, every cigarette package tells you all the disease that smoking can cause, yet people go out and buy it, right? They probably tell themselves it's not going to happen to me, or if it happens, it's so far in the future. They won't change unless they're being diagnosed with something or something happens to their health, and that's the trigger. Okay, I need to change the way I look at cigarettes. Why do I smoke? And they go back to their inner beliefs around this topic of smoking. Very profound example, and I hope a lot of people look at it that way and just toss them away. Survival versus creation illustrates the distinction between living in survival and living in creation. Living in survival means living in stress and functioning as a materialist, believing that the outer world is more real than the inner world. So when you're under the gun of the fight-flight nervous system, you're being run by its cocktail of intoxicating chemicals, a lot of cortisol that goes through your body, up and down through your bloodstream, and you're programmed to be concerned only by your body, the things or people in your environment, and your obsession with time. That's your outer world. That's external. Your brain and body are pretty much out of balance. You cannot live a great life that way. However, when you're truly in the elegant state of creation, you're nobody, you're no thing, you're no time. You literally forget about yourself. A good example would be when you play football, flag football nowadays, or you used to play football in high school, and you're chasing the ball, you're in the process, you have strategies and all that stuff. You literally forget about everything around you. You forget about yourself pretty much. That is called the flow state. You can have that flow state at any given moment in your life. It's not like, oh yeah, it was in the past and you can never achieve it again. You can bring it to light pretty much today if you like. And I love this concept of flow state. It's a very powerful and transformational concept. Let's talk about our inner voice that we all have. Something that, in my opinion, has not been talked about often, and it literally makes us or breaks us. We all have it, and we have about 80,000 thoughts a day, mostly garbage. And I'm sorry I say it that way, but we think about situations, feelings, memories, things we see, we dissect on a daily basis. We all have both positive and negative. However, there are a few reoccurring thoughts that you really need to pay attention to, which ties into your inner beliefs. So those voices literally tell you you won't make it or you aren't good enough. That very thing will stop you from achieving what you set out to achieve. This ties into your emotions as well. Those thoughts trigger an emotion, which is then reconfirmed by the mind as evidence that whatever you felt is real, and you start believing it. We all reach a certain point when we stop learning and realize that nothing external can take away those familiar negative feelings from our past. I'd like to illustrate that with a concept that I came across a while back called the chessboard metaphor. So when you think about an external experiences, thoughts, feelings, and you see all the pieces on a chessboard, you simply replace kings and queens and all the other ones with your thoughts and feelings. So now imagine you have positive and pleasant feelings on one side and negative and unpleasant thoughts and feelings on the opposite side. So with this foundation in mind, I talk about a personal story. For the longest, I had a really hard time speaking in public to more than one person. If there was one person plus and I had to say something, I got irritated, anxiety, all that stuff. I always wondered why that is. So I went back in my past and realized in middle school, when I gave a speech in biology, I wasn't prepared. and I completely bonked the presentation. I was made fun of, went back home, was frustrated, and I had thoughts such as I'm not smart enough, I can't articulate myself, and so on. And that basically was a reoccurring event which led to extreme phases of self-doubt. Let me break that down. Since I believed it so strongly and made it my identity, every time I had to give a presentation somewhere, I started feeling extremely anxious, and as a result, I would not even show up in the first place. I remember one class I took in college, we had to give a presentation at the end of the class, or of the course, and it was, let's say, 50% of the entire grade. And guess what? I didn't even show up. It was a 20-minute presentation, a subject of whatever, I think it was economics at the time, and I simply did not show up. I got an F for that speech, obviously, and failed the class. So the pieces of one side of my internal chessboard were quickly joined by pieces from the other side, and a battle or internal struggle began to unfold. Another internal struggle is when we don't think or feel negative or distressing thoughts and feelings and try to actively push the pieces off the board and distract ourselves. Back to our weight loss vision from earlier, that would mean that you push all your inner beliefs away, you don't think you can lose weight, you go to McDonald's or you load up or other poisonous distractions to make you feel good in that moment. But what happens is, most of the time, 99%, those pieces always come back eventually. Good question is, how did I solve my chessboard and eliminated most of those counterproductive pieces? I have to become the board. I became my own life observer, and my internal dialogue would go like this. Oh, there's a presentation in a week? I had a few days to prepare. My inner voice showed up telling me I'm not good enough, what if cases, faint, people will make fun of me, and so on. I took inventory of these thoughts, but the crucial difference this time was that I watched them come and go. So number one, I learned that by acknowledging them, thoughts and feelings and my inner voice that came up, they have automatically less dominance over me and my actions. So in other words, they would lose its power. I started to accept them. So this is what I was doing internally. Nobody could see it, it was just me, right? Externally, the only way to get rid of this fear was going through its meaning. And I had to practice speaking in public. So I did everything from speaking in front of a mirror and doing the speech over and over again. You have to do the work that you're avoiding. Amazing quote, which goes back to the essay from Stranger's Loop from earlier. I became my own science project, my own experiment. And at the end of the day, it's a game. You become aware of things, you see problems, you test them, you solve, you clear, build systems, you repeat, and you evolve. Try to use the chessboard metaphor in your own life and identify false beliefs and feelings, and start by acknowledging your feelings and emotions. Write them down. I keep repeating myself, but the power of writing is unbelievable. So this entire process we just went over of realizing your long-term vision and figuring out your why by setting mini goals and asking the right questions, creating a strategy and launching yourself into the opposite direction by acknowledging your inner beliefs you've been carrying around for a long time. Start challenging those beliefs and put in the hard work that you've been avoiding all those years. I can tell you from personal experience that this won't be easy. Unlearning your habits and self-sabotaging inner beliefs is a lifelong pursuit. However, if you're really committed, you're gonna see changes within a few months. I can promise you that. 2020 is in full swing. So reflip the switch, get inside of you, build a foundation that will make you reinvent yourself for a better self-created future. It's time to regain momentum of what you originally intended to do. It's never too late. Start today. Take care, you're Christian.